Appreciate all of you hanging out with me as we are rolling into college football season. Yes, we have made it. I'll talk about the Iowa State-Kansas State game, which I watched over the weekend. We've got a lot of topics to dive into as we are here in college football season. And I certainly appreciate all of you that have made it through the long, dark off season of no college football. Let's dive in here. We got a bunch of different topics, but I want to start right off the top with the biggest game that happened over the weekend. Iowa State gets the win over Kansas State. Top 25 matchup in Ireland, Big 12 game that may end up having a substantial impact and who plays in the Big 12 title game and who also ends up in the championship playoff. Congrats, Iowa State. I loved how much the Iowa State fan base traveled. I don't know what the total breakdown in the stadium was, but every time I saw crowd shots, every time I heard screaming audio, cheering, it appeared that Iowa State, the Cyclones, vastly outnumbered the fan base of Kansas State, and I thought ultimately Iowa State got it done. Now, there were a lot of things, I think, if you were an Iowa State fan that made you nervous. I didn't think your offensive line held up very well, particularly in the first three quarters against that K-State defensive line. I thought you managed to tire out the K-State defensive line a little bit. Pass protection got much better down the stretch run of the game. Fourth down. This game was decided on fourth down. Kansas State went for it many times. By and large, was not able to convert. Fantastic call from Matt Campbell late in that game, going for the win on fourth down. If I remember correctly, instead of kicking the field goal to go up 6, they actually got the benefit of, initially it was ruled a touchdown, which would have hit the over. They went back and looked at it and said, no, he's down inside the 1. And as a result, it could not have played out better for Iowa State. They were able to run it down to the 2-minute warning, then take 3 straight knees, and that carried them to the victory, which was significant. Let me say this, and I was talking with this with buddies as I was doing our fantasy football draft. To me, college football could do a better job of opening season. And I don't know why no one else suggests this, but am I crazy or are you with me on this? College football should start in mid to late August. Start the college football season earlier. Kids typically on many campuses are back, particularly in the South, in August. I would start the college football season earlier, and I would end it with the national title game being played on New Year's Day. Imagine if you started in the third week of August, let's say. You get 3 weeks before the NFL kicks off. There's a huge demand for football before the NFL kicks off. You're competing with the preseason, and you're able then, I think, to create a huge running start on the college football season. You then are able to finish the season way earlier, and you get into the playoff faster, and you're able, I think you could play the championship game on January 1st. I don't hear anybody else ever argue this. To me, it is a no-brainer, and college football should take more advantage. Now, they have listened, I think, to a lot of us. An opening weekend of college football is really fantastically well done. We've got games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I love that we have 5 different days of awesome kickoff festivities. But I would argue, as the NFL, I think, is going to move more and more towards shrinking the preseason, and as fans care less and less about the preseason overall, why not steal a march on the NFL, start the season earlier, play the first 3 weeks before the NFL even kicks off, and then you only have to compete head-to-head with the NFL for 9 weeks instead of 11 weeks, and you get the opportunity to finish your entire season before the NFL postseason starts. It just feels like a no-brainer to me. Again, if you think I'm crazy, you can hop in the comments and let me know why this doesn't make sense. To me, it makes total sense. And so credit to Iowa State. That is the one change that I would make going forward. Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas, is going to be with us on Thursday in the Fade all season long. And we will break this game down with her, as she is a sad Kansas State Wildcat fan who made the trip all the way over to Ireland. We'll hear what she thought about it and get the breakdown from her. Second part, biggest story, I would say, of the NFL preseason. First of all, by and large, for the most part, no significant, major, massive, outrageous injuries, which is what you always root for in the in the NFL preseason. But everybody is reacting. Everybody reacting to Shedeur Sanders and his performance. Now, I told all of you, I don't react to NFL preseason quarterback play because I have seen so many quarterbacks in actual NFL games play really well or really badly, and it doesn't actually translate very much to what their career is going to be like. And I mentioned it, and I think it's a great, easy one to distill. Marcus Mariota, 5 touchdown passes, first career start with the Titans, may have peaked right out of the gate there. Will Levis, 4 touchdown passes for the Titans in the first game he ever started, definitely peaked out of the gate. So I said, when everybody was losing their mind saying, oh my goodness, how good did Shedeur Sanders look in the preseason week 1? I said, you guys are crazy. He didn't play in preseason week 2, I believe. Now in preseason week 3, he didn't play well, and people are losing their minds in the opposite direction. I think by and large, Shedeur Sanders has looked like what he has been, which is a quarterback that there's a lot of uncertainty about his NFL future. And am I correct in this, Adam? I believe right now it appears the Browns are going to keep 4 quarterbacks on their roster. This is, I believe, what I have seen. Joe Flacco is going to be the starter. They still have, I'm sorry, Browns fans, to run through this with you. They still have, is it Kenny Pickett, who is still on this roster? And then they have 2 rookies, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. Am I correct that that is the Browns quarterback room right now? And all 4 of these guys, it appears, are going to be on the roster? This is crazy. Now, I happen to think that the Browns are hoping to tank for Arch and that they are not going to be very good this year, as they have traditionally not been very good. Cut day is not officially here. If Shedeur were to get cut, people would lose their minds. That's why I think the Browns are going to keep him on the roster. They kicked Snoop Huntley to the curb, but they still have 4 guys on the roster. Most of the time, they've changed, I believe, the rules so that third quarterbacks are allowed to dress because they had some issues with first and second string quarterbacks getting hurt. Am I right about that the NFL a while back changed the rules to allow a third quarterback to dress, but that the first 2 have to get injured basically to allow everybody to be able to play the third quarterback, if I'm remembering, like kind of an emergency QB, because we had issues with, in the postseason, for instance, 2 quarterbacks getting hurt. But yeah, we're going to go with Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders on the 53-man roster. That's unheard of. Nobody keeps 4 quarterbacks. That is entirely a result, I think, of the Browns being afraid of the criticism if they were to cut Shedeur Sanders. Now, I don't know what the market for Shedeur would be if he were cut. Maybe somebody would bring him in as a third string, but the amount of attention on Shedeur is one reason that I think teams decided not to get him, not to draft him highly. It reminds me, I saw Dan Dockich was talking about this I think he compared him to Tim Tebow on an earlier show here on the OutKick network. I don't think that's a bad comparison, except Tebow was a Heisman Trophy winning first-round quarterback. Johnny Manziel, former Browns quarterback, was a Heisman Trophy first-round quarterback. Massive amounts of attention on them. I don't recall anybody getting this kind of attention as a fifth-round quarterback, maybe ever. Good question for you guys. Can you think of a non-first or second-round quarterback that has ever received this level of attention in the NFL? And I'm not talking about, hey, Tom Brady was a sixth-round pick and eventually he ends up a starting quarterback. I'm talking about a fifth-round draft pick that has received this amount of coverage. I think it's truly unprecedented. I cannot think of anyone that has ever gone in the fifth round as a quarterback. Frankly, fifth-round draft picks, period, but obviously quarterbacks get more attention than anyone else. I can't even think of this situation ever existing, such that, what do you think the coverage is of Shedeur compared to Cam Ward? Cam Ward was the overall number one pick. There's an argument, and I think I would sign on to it, that Cam Ward has benefited immensely by the amount of attention that has poured in on Shedeur Sanders, because nobody even knows what Cam Ward is doing. There's no pressure on him. I don't even think most people know which team Cam Ward is on. Now, partly that's a function of the Titans stinking, and trust me, I happen to be a Titans fan, so unfortunately, I know better than most what it's like to be a fan of a team that stinks, such that the biggest story that actually came out of the weekend, the Titans played the Vikings. My boys didn't even want to go to this game. We're season ticket holders for the Titans. I gave tickets to my brother-in-law. And it's a Friday night game. My kids were like, hey, we'd rather go to a high school football game. We'd rather stay home. But there was a green dildo thrown on the field. Do we have the green dildo? Has now moved from the WNBA to Major League Baseball, PGA over the fields right there on the Titans field. We also got one at the PGA. Congratulations to Fleetwood for his $10 million victory. But there we go. Zoom in over and over again. I have an alibi. I want you all to know this was not me. I had nothing to do with the green dildo. I was doing I don't know exactly what time the green dildo hit the field, so I'm not sure exactly where I was for my alibi, to be fair. I don't even know exactly what moment this thing hit the field, but I can tell you that I was I'll tell you exactly where I was, in case the investigators come for me. I was at Marsha Blackburn's. I was at her governor's fundraiser in the state of Tennessee, where I met Bo Duke. Do we have that picture to be able to put up? This was 1984. Clay Travis could not have imagined anything better than meeting Bo Duke, a.k.a. John Snyder. I was super excited to do this. We're going to pop it up for you. I loved the Dukes of Hazzard more than anything. Look how big John Schneider is. Monster of a guy there. That is, in the picture, John Rich, country music, ride a horse, not a cowboy, ride a cowboy, not whatever the heck the cowboy, ride a cowboy, not a horse. That's not the right phrase. Anyway, that is in there. And if you go back to the photo, you've got Brad Lampley, save a horse, ride a cowboy. Yes, save a horse, ride a cowboy. John Rich is awesome. Really good dude. Love him. I've gotten to know him quite well. And then you had in the picture Brad Lampley, the guy on the far left there, is a former University of Tennessee offensive lineman. So, I mean, he's a big dude. Look how big John Schneider is. And then I'm there in the middle. Look, I'm 6 foot 185. I'm not some tiny dude. Bo Duke just dwarfs me. Super excited to get to meet him. He had no idea who I was. Can't have wins in every direction. Sylvester Stallone did know me. Bo Duke, John Schneider, no idea who I was. And so that was super fun. So I was there. And then Josh Pate and I did a college football sort of roundtable with his producer, Jesse. It was fun. And then I went to the NBA Pearl Cone high school game. So I was not involved in throwing the green dildo on the field. I've got an airtight alibi. Wife was with me the whole time. Witnesses, not my involvement in the green dildo. But we're talking about what went on with the opener of college football in Ireland. We're talking about what went on with the NFL preseason. Prize Picks, easy to play. Between 2 and 6, more or less. It is fun. It is easy. You can play in California. You can play in Texas. You can play in Georgia. You can play in Florida. You can play in my home state of Tennessee. 40-plus states you are eligible to play, including 13 million people already signed up. You may have buddies that are involved. If you go to prizepicks.com, code CLAY, right now, you get $50 when you play $5. I said CLAY, that's the radio show. OutKick, the code, $50 as well when you play $5. It's easy. All you have to do is go sign up. Prizepicks.com, code OutKick, $5 will turn into $50. Okay, I saw this over the weekend. Zohran Mamdani, the Democrat nominee to be New York City mayor. He's running around campaigning. There's a huge crowd of people. They have a bench set up outside. And Mamdani, this is 35. If you zoom in, 245-pound weights, okay? And a bench. It's 135 pounds and the bar, okay? For those of you that do not like to lift, I do like to lift. I'm not claiming that I am incredibly strong, but I am. Last year, I posted a video of me doing 185 pounds 10 times, which is elite level strength for all natural 46-year-old fat dads. Really good performance by me. Here is Mamdani at the age of 33 getting on the bench and basically not knowing how to hold the bar or how to actually, he's not strong enough to get 135. Look at how much the guy spotting him has to strain. Let's play this video. This is Mamdani, Democrats' new greatest hope, giving you evidence of why Democrats have almost no men with functional penises that are still fans of the party. Play it.
This is how you move up in the polls. This is how you move up in the polls. Yeah. This is how you move up in the polls. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Yeah. Let me get one more. Let me get three. Let me get three. Let me get three. Yeah.
I mean, this is an indefensible level of weakness for a grown man. And you can say, well, why does it matter whether a politician is strong or not? Why should I care? I do think that from the age of Greeks and Romans, from which our democratic republic descends, having a strong body and a strong mind have been seen as connected. And so if you are attempting to appeal to young men, then having some ability to talk sports and or just be comfortable inside of a gym is, I think, kind of about signaling to them that you speak their language. Now, if he bench pressed 225 pounds and just repped it out really fast, would I think more of him? Yeah, I would. In the same way that I'm impressed at any skill that requires effort and work. If you can bench press 225 pounds, it tells me that you have spent time in a gym. It tells me that you care about physical strength, which I think men should. And so I'm not saying it's dispositive, but if you are unable to connect with male voters, and if you are struggling in a big way with young men, I think this weakness is symbolic of the weakness of the Democrat Party when it comes to young men. Now, again, I like being in the gym. I'm going to potentially try to do the RFK Jr. and Pete Hegseth challenge, 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups as fast as I can. It's funny, we're talking about this. My 14-year-old came home yesterday from a friend's house, and he said, Dad, I just got 155 for the first time ever. And he was so excited. He's 14 years old. He just repped out 20 more pounds than a grown man Mamdani there. And he was so excited to be able to talk about the fact that he had done it. I think that's how most young men are. I think most young men, and this is where Democrats struggle with them, want to be bigger, faster, stronger versions of themselves than they are. And so the fact that Mamdani can't do this is, I think, symbolic of the weakness of the Democrat Party and of their inability to connect with younger male voters in particular. So, yes, I think less of grown men if they can't bench press 135 pounds. That's actually a great poll question. In fact, I'm going to do the poll question live on the air right now. I'm going to write Zohran Mamdani needed a spotter. Let me make sure I get this right. To bench press 135 pounds. Do you think less of grown men who can't bench 135? Yes or no? Zohran Mamdani needed a spotter to bench press 135 pounds. Do you think less of grown men who can't bench 135? Yes or no? What do you think the numbers are going to be here? I think it's going to be, this is my prediction of my audience voting, I think it's going to be 85% yes, 15% no. Let's see what the early outcome of this poll that I just posted live during the show is. You can obviously go vote in this poll if you simply go to Clay Travis and go search me. And by the way, I've got a long-form story up about ESPN and about the streaming era in sports that a lot of you are reacting to. That is up right now, and I would encourage you guys to go read it. In fact, I'm going to pin it to the top of my page later this afternoon if you want to go find it. Some people say, hey, Clay, you should be writing more. Hey, by the way, I do write still a lot. Balls is going to be going out. I'll have my picks every single Wednesday for college football and the NFL, the OutKick six-pack. I'll be doing that all fall. I'll be doing the starting 11. So that is all going to be coming in your direction. And it is 89% yes, 11% no. 100 votes may adjust, but that's pretty close to what I predicted. I said 85-15, my audience is going to react. Some of you may have seen that your boy was attacked by left-wingers over the weekend because I weighed in on Media Buzz, good show that Fox does every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, with Howard Kurtz. He asked me about Trump looking at the Smithsonian and complaining about the way that the Smithsonian was covering, for instance, slavery. And I said, let me tell you my pitch, and I think this makes complete sense. I said in June, and I'm paraphrasing what I said earlier on Fox News, but I'm going to double, triple, quadruple down on this take. My son, my oldest son, is a senior in high school now, 17 years old. He was doing an internship, so we were up in D.C. for a couple of weeks. And he loves science. He loves science fiction. He loves space exploration, all of it. So he was really excited to go to the Air and Space Museum. So on a Saturday or a Sunday, I took him with me, and we went to the Air and Space Museum. It's free. A lot of you, I would imagine, have been to the Smithsonian at some points in your life. And I went to the Smithsonian with him, and I said, hey, I went to the Smithsonian. They had the Wright brothers playing. They had the Spirit of St. Louis with Lindbergh. They have an IMAX theater there, and they had a couple of different awesome stories about space exploration and some of the challenges of light years and stuff that's way smarter that I don't even particularly understand. Meaning my scientific knowledge is not great. I was asking him questions. He is way smarter with science and math, for that matter, than I was at his age, and certainly that I am now. And so what I didn't see any exhibits about plane crashes. And I didn't see any exhibits about terror attacks using planes. And that doesn't mean that those are not historically resonant and significant. It just means that the goal of the Air and Space Museum, it seemed to me, is to leave people inspired. When they leave the Air and Space Museum, you want to feel better about human ingenuity. You want to feel more excited about how that is going to inspire future generations to strive for even more impressive outcomes than we have seen so far. You don't want to leave feeling depressed. And that, to me, should be the overarching goal of the Smithsonian museums in general. It doesn't mean you avoid negative aspects of history. It's just that you see American history primarily through the prism of triumph, not failure. And you want to judge American history based on our best moments, not our worst. And it's kind of directly connected to what I talked about, why the Democrat brand has collapsed. It's because they want to drag us back over and over and over again into the worst moments of our history. The entire premise of the 1619 Project, Nicole Hannah-Jones's New York Times sponsored history project, was to root American history in the beginning of slavery, not in 1776. Now, anybody out there who studies history knows this is a bastardization of history. It's profoundly unfair. It's not accurate in any way. But if you root American history in the original sin of slavery, then you are able to destroy the legitimacy of the Constitution, of the Declaration of Independence, of our founding fathers themselves, Washington and Jefferson, who owned slaves. And if you do all of that, then you're able to argue that the history of America is profoundly rooted in oppression and in systemic racism and in inequality and in essentially this Marxist identity politics universe where no one is judged on their own individual merit. Everyone is judged on their collective identity. Your race, your gender, your sexuality is more important than anything else. And that, I think, Trump is rejecting. And that is what I said, in essence, on the show. And they attacked me, but I think I'm right. We shouldn't, in the Air and Space Museum, define space flight or air travel on the failures. We should aspire to succeed on a higher level. Doesn't mean it's not dangerous. Doesn't mean that there's not awful elements of space. The Challenger crash was devastating to me as a kid. Certainly 9/11, an intentional use of airplanes to bring down the Twin Towers as well as attack the Pentagon directly is awful. But I'm not going to back down from the idea that American museums, like the Smithsonian in particular, should be aspirational in nature, designed to appeal to the successes of American life as opposed to marinate constantly in the failures. And I think that's a difference in the way that Republicans and Democrats see America in general. Also, there are some museums that are directly focused on awful things that are important to see. The Holocaust Museum, for instance, is directly focused on something awful. And that is certainly a very valid prism through which it's important to educate yourself to ensure that we do not replicate that which is awful that has occurred in the past. But I think the Air and Space Museum, which is the only Smithsonian museum that I have been to in recent history, got it right. I felt really great about America when I left the Air and Space Museum, and that's the kind of vibe that I would want to have leaving most of the Smithsonian museums, I think. So that is my take there. People say, Clay, do you agree with everything that President Trump has done? The answer is no. I don't agree with everything that every person out there has done, that everything that Trump has done. I'll give you an example. It just happened today. I don't think the president has the authority to put someone in prison for a year if they burn the American flag. I believe that burning the American flag is a statement of politics, and it is political speech, and the Supreme Court has ruled that it is protected. Doesn't mean that I want to do it. In fact, I think one of the most iconic moments in American sports history was Rick Monday running out and grabbing the flag before it could be burned. I think that was brave of him. I think that was courageous, iconic. But I believe you should be able to burn any flag that you purchase yourself to make a political statement. The American flag, the gay pride flag, the trans flag, a state flag, a flag of a team that you hate, the Israeli flag, the Palestinian flag. Whatever you want to do, I think that when it comes to burning flags, I think they all should be treated the same. Doesn't mean that I would do it, but as a free speech absolutist, I believe that should be permissible. And so that is my take. I disagree with the president's statement on the flag earlier today. Positive. I love everything the president is doing in terms of trying to protect Washington, D.C. In fact, we have now gone, depending on where you start the counting, either 11 or 12 days with no murders in Washington, D.C., an unheard of stretch of being able to avoid serious, major issues when it comes to the worst, most violent crime of all. And so I give tremendous credit to the president over the way that he has handled that. I think that he is 100% right, that we should have less violent crime. I don't think this is a remotely difficult proposition to endorse, and I think he is 100% right. And as I said on this program and got criticized for, I think he should expand it beyond Washington, D.C. I think going to Chicago would make sense. I think going to Baltimore would make sense. I think any American city, Memphis in my home state of Tennessee, Kansas City, St. Louis, Detroit, whatever the biggest cities with the largest violent crime rate are, I think it's a very good thing if we drive all of those down. Do we have the updated poll that I put up during the course of the show? Do you think less of a grown man who can't bench 135 pounds? What about my prediction? Nearly nailed 2,600 votes in the first 10 minutes. 84% of you said yes. 16% of you said no. What did I say? 85-15? It's a pretty good prediction for how the overall vote would turn out. Couple of other things. Let's see. Let me hit the questions that you guys have on YouTube. Every one of the shows, Docket's show, Ricky Cobb's show, Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow, Tommy Lahren, they're all available now on their own OutKick pages. So if you are watching this right now, you are able to go in and subscribe to those individual shows that will have their own pages, and you will be able to get hooked up there before all is said and done. You can roll some of these things over, by the way, if we didn't refer to them or show them. I think we have white people protesting, by the way. Can we show the white people protesting who are upset that violent crime is dropping in D.C.? This is from Fox News. Look at these people as we play this video. Look at these people protesting. Why are white people protesting violent crime collapsing in Washington, D.C.? Why do they want more black and brown, overwhelmingly people to be victims of violent crime? Look at that crowd. That's just a bunch of middle-aged white people angry that President Trump is trying to drive down the rates of violent crime. I agree with him 100%. Okay. YouTube comments. These are comments from X as well. I hopped into YouTube. I saw we had like 500 comments recently on one of our shows. Appreciate all of you. Thousands of comments on Twitter over the weekend. I saw that. Instagram, everywhere. DJ Lagway leads the Florida Gators to a 9-3 record, spot in the playoffs, or Billy continues to suck at coaching and we go 6-6 and he gets fired. That's not really a take. Are you asking me which of these I think is most likely? I don't think 9-3 gets you to the playoffs. So I don't think that 9-3 is likely to get any team into the playoff. So I think you're going to have to go 10-2, most likely in order to make the playoff in the SEC. And I think if you look at that Florida Gator schedule, I think they're going to go 7-5. So my prediction on the Florida Gators, 7-5. I don't think he'll get fired at 7-5 if Lagway plays well. I think they'll stick with him. If Arch was worthy of the hype, Sark would have played him last year. No way Sark would have let the more talented quarterback sit on the sideline when they had a chance at winning it all. I think he thought Quinn Ewers was better as a passer because of the experience that he had in the system. You can believe that an older guy who has been playing college football for far longer is better than what was Arch last year, redshirt freshman. Remember, Eli Manning sat for 2 full years at Ole Miss before he played nearly at the end in the Music City Bowl and came out guns blazing, was phenomenal against Minnesota, if I remember, threw like 4 touchdown passes. And everybody at Ole Miss back in the day said, why did we wait this long to play Eli? Sometimes you can believe the veteran quarterback is the more reliable option than the younger guy. I think Arch Manning is going to be phenomenal this year. In fact, I picked him as my Heisman frontrunner at 7-1. He is the Heisman frontrunner, but I don't know that he's going to be great week 1 this weekend against Ohio State on Fox. I'm not convinced, but I do think the Texas defense is going to be so good that he's going to round into shape. And by the time we get into late October, early November, I think Arch is going to be the best quarterback in college football. That is my prediction, why I think Texas is going to win the SEC this year. College football is slightly less boring than the NFL, so much so I can only muster a lukewarm take. There's essentially no difference in getting excited about college football or high school football. The difference is literally like a year. Well, first of all, I think high school football is really cool. My son is playing high school football this year. I think it's awesome. So denigrating high school football to me is not some sort of indictment of college football. In fact, I think a lot of you out there that played high school football, it's one of your favorite things you did in school, one of the favorite things you may have done in your life. In fact, I think there's a great deal of purity to high school football still in many states and in many cities and in many small towns and communities out there that all come together to root for their favorite high school football team on Friday night. I don't see that as an indictment. I think college football, personally, is a better experience and more fun than the NFL. NFL is fine. I think it's weirder to cheer for teams that represent professional organizations. Doesn't mean that I don't want my Titans to win a Super Bowl at some point in time. Other than Green Bay, I don't think any NFL environment is even a pinprick as awesome as the average top SEC, let's say, tailgate environment. 9 games, a dumbass move. The SEC went to 9. Already a higher strength of schedule with 8. Now it's going to be worse, and strength of schedule will be ignored by the committee. I think that's totally wrong. I think strength of schedule, as announced by the College Football Playoff Committee, is going to become more important. There will be less of an argument on behalf of, let's say, a Big Ten school like Indiana, because now the SEC teams will be playing 9. And given that you're going to play one out-of-conference foe, I think those games will continue to have massive importance. This weekend, Alabama at Florida State. I'm going to be at that game. LSU at Clemson. Texas at Ohio State. Tennessee plays Syracuse. There are a lot of big games. What is it? Notre Dame against Miami. There are a ton of huge conference matchups. I know Notre Dame's a little bit of a mess because they're playing with the schedule alignment in the ACC, but they're not technically an ACC member. You know what I'm talking about. That are going to have a momentous echoing impact going forward. North Carolina, TCU, if I'm not mistaken. That's a heck of a game that is super interesting. We'll break all these games down for you and more as we progress during the course of the week. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. I am Clay Travis. Go click like and subscribe on the show, this one, and you can search out all your favorite OutKick shows across the YouTube universe. They now have all their own individual pages. Go sign up for that as well. Appreciate all of you. This has been OutKick, the show. As I said, college football is back. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP.